Hello everyone and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry. Today's video is another adventurer spotlight, this time focused on Orsem. As his description reads, Orsem is an immaculate ice skater. He was the first new 4-star added to Dragalia Lost post-launch, and his kit retains a lot of desirable properties. To start off, let's overview Orsem's typing and stats. Orsem is an attack type water element dagger. The dagger class is graceful, speedy, and acrobatic. In this way, it mirrors Orsem's identity on the ice rink. As a dagger user, Orsem has the critical rate co-ability. While not as universal as strength or skill damage, it's still the third best offensive co-ability. In Orsem's case, it also works well with two of his passives. I've also shown damage modifiers, hit counts, and SP gain for Orsem's basic attacks, upgraded Force Strike, and dash attack. Daggers usually want to use all 5 basic attacks, C1 through C5, plus a Force Strike to end the combo. The Force Strike can be charged and angled during the dagger jump animation. As far as stats, Orsem's do skew towards strength rather than HP, which is generally a positive. Once upon a time, Orsem's low HP could be a liability, and it wasn't easy for him to survive against Brunhilde's trial without a high investment Zainfried. Thankfully, this is no longer the case. Since the addition of dual Wyrmprints and Void Battle weapons, Orsem has plenty of workable build options. We'll get into those in just a moment, but first, let's quickly recap Orsem's skills and abilities. Orsem has 2 attack skills, Flurry Edge and Triple Salchow. Triple Salchow can freeze enemies if they don't resist freeze like Brunhilde and Void Agni do. The dagger combo with a Force Strike mentioned earlier works well enough to charge these up. Flurry Edge charges after 2 such combos and Triple Salchow after 4. I'll also note that both skills are multi-hit, which helps Orsem maintain a high combo count. In terms of abilities, Orsem has a clear focus, critical rate. Besides that, Orsem has the usual obligatory affliction resistance, in his case to burn. This resistance is perfect for Brunhilde, but it's irrelevant for Void Agni. Otherwise, though, Orsem's other 2 abilities both enhance his critical rate somehow. Flurry Devastation rewards combos of 15 or more with 10% extra critical rate. The basic dagger combo with a Force Strike can land 10 hits total, so this ability requires some work to maintain, but not much. I will say Flurry abilities are not a given in fights like Brunhilde's trial. Orsem does take practice and effort to bring to his full potential, and a large gap can exist between an expert Orsem and a novice one. HP 70% equals critical rate of 6% is Orsem's third ability unlocked once he's a 5-star. In total, so long as Orsem is healthy and comboing off, he can reach a stellar 28% critical rate before factoring in dragons and Wyrmprints thanks to his co-ability, 2 abilities, and base 2% rate. With dragons and Wyrmprints, Orsem can shoot up to a whopping 63% at most, the highest critical rate in the game before buffs. It may be overkill, but still, it's possible for Orsem. That fact alone makes him stand out. We'll discuss critical rate more when it comes to builds. In the meantime, I'll show off some gameplay of an HBH clear using my 4-star Orsem. He plays the role of melee baiter thanks to his short range. In this capacity, he directs the flow of battle, pointing Brunhilde's dashes, breaths, and meteors in ways favorable to the team. All of those moves target the nearest teammate, which is usually Orsem. Keep in mind that I'm not a pro dagger user, and this is my first time using Orsem, so take the footage with a grain of salt. I make many mistakes, and I'm not adept at maintaining a combo count. I ate a dive bomb, whiffed with a skill, and struggled to draw Brunhilde's aggro, leading to misdirected breaths, dashes, and stolen meteors. Thankfully, we still managed to clear despite this. But now, onto builds. We'll focus on HBH for build ideas. Let's begin with weapons since the decision here is the simplest. Against Brunhilde, Orsem wants Frigid Sting. The skill on Lux Lamina is a lackluster 5-second strength buff. Even though Lux Lamina has higher stats, the HBH Bane ability on Frigid Sting, plus the full HP equals defense render it superior. Gorelust is a third option that should only be used for multi-foe, wave-based quests. Perhaps the upcoming Mercurial Gauntlet will fit the mold for that. Unfortunately, even with the full HP equals defense ability on Frigid Sting, it's still not that easy for Orsem to enter High Brunhilde's trial with no further defense. Running printless, meaning without the Volcanic Queen print, is possible, but you'll almost always still need some flame res, HP, or defense to survive. For example, a 50-node Orsem with completely maxed gear and maxed facilities, including the Water Fafnir, the Dragonyule, and the Yule Tree, still has less than a 5% chance to survive the initial blast alone. A teammate's HP or defense co-abilities or skill prep enabled buffs can help. A 10% HP or 12% defense co-ability would suffice for a max Orsem to run with only Frigid Sting and no further defense through prints. With this in mind, anything less than a full investment Orsem will want the Crystallian Envoy or Volcanic Queen Wormprint, practically speaking, to be self-reliant in co-op HBH rooms. Crystallian Envoy is the only appropriate defensive print that also comes with an offensive ability, which is fantastic. Volcanic Queen is most worth using if you lack facilities from past water events. From there, your main choice is which second Wormprint to equip. Orsem would benefit most from skill and critical damage, but there is no 5-star print that pairs both at the time of writing. There is, however, a popular 4-star print, Flower in the Fray. Orsem must either use Flower in the Fray or make a choice. For skill damage, Resounding Rendition is the best. For critical damage, the limited print, the Prince of Dragonyule, is best. My quick estimate is that Orsem gets around 47 to 51% of his damage from skills, and the rest from normal attacks. All three of these options are fairly close, and you probably won't notice a big difference in most battles. But ultimately it appears that Resounding Rendition plus Crystallian Envoy is the strongest regardless of dragon. For dragons, Orsem can choose among Leviathan, Dragonyule Juicy, or the 4-star Vojanoi for a budget build. Poseidon and High Mercury are also fine. On the bright side, they make it easier to use Orsem and High Brunhilde without Volcanic Queen. Let's focus on John and Leviathan though. When max unbound, Leviathan grants 60% strength, while Dragonyule Juicy grants 45% strength and 20% critical rate. For any of the previous Wormprint combinations, Dragonyule Juicy increases DPS by around 4% compared to Leviathan. Of course, outside the context of High Brunhilde, Leviathan can inflict Bog and use that for massive burst damage, so he's probably the favorite in those environments. As for teammates, the usual High Brunhilde staples work well with Orsem. Fjorm and other lances are terrific since they can increase Orsem's HP, making it easier to survive the initial blast. In addition, lances strike at range, making it less likely they'll steal Orsem's baits. Lily, meanwhile, also attacks at range, leaving Orsem as the sole close-range baiter. In addition, her skill damage co-ability is great for Orsem. These are among the best teammates, but many other burn res units would be perfectly fine as well. Competition is where Orsem faces some challenges, particularly since the dual Wormprint change. He used to be the only sword, axe, or dagger with 100% burn res, and this gave him an edge over others in those weapon types since all three compete for the role of melee baiter in High Brunhilde's trial. It's certainly possible to run with multiple units of these weapon types, but not necessarily recommended. Nowadays, more close-range melee fighters like Zardan and Rex can easily reach 100% burn res. Both of these natural 3-star units can reach 100% burn res with prints like Fireside Gathering or Beauty Secrets, and their damage output is comparable to that of Orsem's, if not higher. With the latest Void update, they also have access to High Brunhilde's Bane full HP equals defense weapons, meaning survival isn't a big issue either. At least, it's not any more of an issue than it is for Orsem, for instance, although Wyrmprint flexibility is reduced for these 3 stars. In fact, Rex is especially tough competition for Orsem since Rex's co-ability can allow himself and your teammates to easily survive the trial's opening blast. I would also argue that axes and even swords are much easier to learn and bait with than daggers are. Those are Orsem's competition in a functional sense, but I'll also touch upon the other water daggers. Orsem shares an element and weapon type with Luther and Dragonyule Cleo, the latter of whom was seasonal. Both of these units have stun res rather than burn res, making them better suited to Void Agni and Flame IO, and less desirable against Brunhilde. Both can work against HBH with a healer who knows how to heal burnables, or when using 100% burn res via Prince, of course. Still, the latter choice is very costly and requires a lot of investment, so it isn't generally recommended. This means that Orsem still retains his niche within his weapon element class, at least to some extent. And, well, there's not much more to say on Orsem. He's a tricky unit to master, and to be honest, the advantages he holds have diminished since he launched, and since Brunhilde's trial released. Dual Wyrmprints have enabled additional role players to compete for his once coveted Bader niche. Just like Nurse Eileen is taking on Thaniel now, and Elisanne and Fjorm have displaced Zainfried, Orsem too has tough competition these days. Maybe it's a reluctance to promote 3 stars, or the fact that lances can double as melee baiters if needed, but somehow I don't think Orsem will fade as quickly as the rest, even if he is a bit outpowered at this point. Nevertheless, if I had to make a recommendation for Brunhilde's trial, honestly it would be to choose Rex. He strikes a great balance of ease of use, raw power, and team support via his co-ability. Orsem lovers should be happy to know that Orsem is still viable, workable, and fine in his old role, but much like, say, Dragonyule Nefaria, he's not necessarily the first adventurer I'd recommend for the job. The other thing that I'm pleased to report is that at the end of the day, Orsem does have a nice kit. It's simple yet cohesive. His freeze can be useful for some easier quests. He has a clear game plan and can achieve the highest possible critical rates before in-combat buffs are applied. It's rewarding to learn to play as him, and there's lots of room for growth and improvement. All of these are positives that I hope provide some solace to those of you who do love Orsem for his personality and story, as well as those who chose to invest into him in the past for gameplay reasons. I've definitely enjoyed getting to know Orsem after summoning him fairly recently, and I hope that, if you're interested in him, you do too. Alright, and that's gonna do it for this Adventurer Spotlight. Orsem was a fun adventurer to check out, and as of this Spotlight, we've now done 3 units of each element. But what do you think of Orsem? And who do you want to see next for future Spotlight videos? Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, everyone, thank you so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you next time.